Hi, everybody. I am Kathy with Eagle Condor Astrology, and I promised you all I would do a webinar on this lunar eclipse, which is also a full moon. It's happening at 12:18 p or a.m. on August 28th, so technically tomorrow, but it's really kind of tonight. So yeah, I'm gonna just share my screen so I can show you the chart and then get into it. Um, and as I'm doing that, let me also let you know that I'm going to be at Mountain Mystic in Front Royal, Virginia this Saturday, August 29th. So if you would like a personal reading, just show up anytime between 11 and 5 p.m. And also feel free to contact me at my website if you want readings as well. If you're not in the area, I can always do that for you. So yeah. Okay, so here is the chart of the eclipse. It's happening now, or basically in a couple hours. So there's a lot to break down. You can see there's a lot of red lines. There's a lot of green lines. They're really strong, really thick. So that means that the connections are very, very tight. And there's a lot. There's a lot going on. The most important thing to look at and this is we've got the sun here on one side of the chart at the bottom, and then we've got the moon up here, just opposite, and they're at the exact same degree. You see, they're both at 4 degrees, 54 minutes. So that means they're bang on opposite each other in the sky, and that's when the eclipse happens. And it happens because what we call the nodes of the moon are really close to the sun and the moon as well. So that's what's going on in the sky is that the Earth is coming in between the sun and the moon, and it's blocking the view of the moon, so to speak. So it's going to look like someone took a big bite, like a huge bite out of the moon, when this is actually full in the sky. But that's what's going on. So what does it mean? Basically, we've got the moon in Pisces, which is all about like trying to make sense of our emotions and our feelings. And it's like putting together all of the different pieces of ourselves and the things that have happened in our lives and trying to make some sense of that emotionally and try to figure out like, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? What is really driving that? Where is this coming from? What are all the different factors in my life that either are a part of me or that happened to me or that came to me through other people or something, through experiences, whatever it is that contributed to that? And how can I deal with those now? And how can I make sense of those now? And how can I process those now? And why do I want to do that? Because I'm going toward the sun. Well, in part because I have to show up in the world. The sun is in the sign of Virgo. And with the sun in Virgo, it's like we can see pretty clearly all the stuff that we have to do, all of our responsibilities, all of the practical day-to-day things we have to do to show up and do our part in the world and be of service to other people and, just be present physically and do our part in the world. So there's like this tension with them being across from the sky and each other. There's like this tension between trying to, honor your emotions and all of that, but still show up and be your best self and always try to improve things and make things better for other people and for yourself as you're doing it, but for other people, especially with the Virgo. Um, so yeah, there's this tension there with that. And why are we doing all this? Because we're trying to go to this north node here, which is in the sign of Aquarius, and it's saying, how can we be better as a society? How can we do our role? What is our role, and how can we fit into that even better? And in order to get there, we need to balance this tension between the sun and the moon, between our emotions and what we see clearly as what we need to do. Then we've got Mercury right here next to the sun. So it's kind of combining its energy with the sun. And Mercury is all about how we associate ideas, information, thoughts, and how we communicate as well, all those things. So like we're seeing and we're wanting to speak up and do our role, do our part in society to make things better. And but at the same time, we want to do that in order to not just for ourselves. That's what we're kind of letting go of. It's not just for our own interest and to shine, individually, but it's because we're going toward this more collective ideal where we're looking to improve things in society and to do our part to fulfill our role in that, because we all have some role to play in how things happen on the grand scheme of things, right? So that's the basic tension of this eclipse. But then there's complicating factors in this as well. We've got this planet here. This is the planet Uranus, this blue one. And you see it there, it's connected to both the moon and the sun with these little squares, right? So that's what we what we say in astrology. It's Uranus is squaring this eclipse. It's squaring both the sun and Mercury on the one side and the moon on the other. And Uranus wants us to be in the present moment. It wants us to not really think about the future, not worry about, where things are going or, how we're going to do all the million things on our plate to do. It doesn't want us to worry about our emotions either. It doesn't want us to like get buried or stuck in, why we're feeling the way that we do. And and keep us that having the emotions keep us from moving and doing the things that we have to do in the world, so that because we're not good to ourselves, we're not good to anybody else if we're hiding away and sobbing all day, or if we're raging at people all day, or if we're buried in guilt and doing everything because we think we have to instead of because we want to. So Uranus says it's time to break out of all that. You gotta do something. You gotta be in the moment. You have to be present. You have to be it's like challenging us. This square is like a challenging energy. So it's challenging us to get out of that emotional stuckness and to get out of the I have to, I must, I'm responsible for this, even though I don't really want to do it, right? But how can we actually get to a place where we're enjoying what we're doing and where we're dealing with our emotions, but not getting buried by them, where we're like processing them one at a time as they show up, and not avoiding them either, but letting them go and not letting them get stuck in us. So that's the challenge with this eclipse. And with Uranus in this position, sometimes it's shocks or disruptions or things that we're not expecting, surprises or something like that, that causes us to make that shift. And it's with Uranus there, I think there's also some kind of emotional catharsis going on with this eclipse as well, where we're like really finally understanding some things about ourselves or about our situation in life, and understanding that we can't keep going on this way. We have to break free. We have to break loose. We have to do things in a new way. So that's a big, big, big part of this eclipse. Okay, with that going on. But then on the other side, we've got this connection at different angles, but connection to Venus, this green planet here. And that's saying, and that notice that Venus is also connected to Uranus here with another, it's what's called a sesqui square. It's kind of related to the square. So it's also like this driving energy of challenging us to move forward on it. And Venus is all about our attraction to beauty. And it's about, how to look at things and go after the beauty instead of, again, getting stuck in the things that we don't want. So with Uranus and Venus making this connection here, it's like saying, how can we be in the moment and find the beauty in it? And it's challenging us to do that just, on a regular basis. Be in the moment, find the beauty. Be in the moment, find the beauty. I'm changing the diapers. I'm going to be in the moment and find the beauty. I'm going to play with my baby as I'm doing that. I'm doing the dishes. I'm going to be in the moment, find the beauty. I'm going to look at the bubbles and imagine, I don't know, see the rainbows in them and find the beauty in that. It's that's part of this energy. And it's making that connection to the moon on the other side. So how can we find the beauty even in the difficult emotions? How can we look at what they've taught us and how we're able to break free of them and get to a more peaceful place inside of ourselves by being more present and by looking for the beauty, for something that gives us life. And when I say beauty, that means different things to different people, by the way, of course. So that could be, that could be anything as mundane as money, like, as well as, just like this ideal relationship or this ideal, I don't know, just seeing a rainbow on the wall and just like saying, "Oh my God, look at those colors. Isn't that amazing?" So it's whatever beauty means to you when I say this, but we're being challenged to find that beauty on a daily basis, really, with this. And this, I should say, I didn't say this, but this energy is actually valid for the coming 6 months as well. It's kind of the emotional undercurrent of these next 6 months. So it's things that the universe is saying you've got to work on. You've got to you really need to make some strides in these next 6 months and do some exploration to get to this more beautiful place, this place where you're more present and not always thinking about the million things you need to do in the future or all the stuff that happened in the past that you wish was still here or that you wish you could change or whatever it is that you want to get stuck in. It's like, how can you be more present? How can you find the beauty? So that's the underlying message of this. Okay. The other thing I want to show you about this. Okay, well, let's look at this green triangle before I go there. So this is an underlying pattern that is still pretty strong. It's kind of getting looser, but it's been with us for a couple of months now. And so we've got the planet Neptune up here in the middle of it, making a square or making a sextile to Uranus on the one side and to Pluto, this purple planet, on the other side. So Neptune's about kind of like the higher octave of beauty. It's what's actually ideal or magical or what inspires us. And with the connection to Pluto on this side, it's like it's a very intense inspiration. It's like it's something that we're compelled to do. It's something that we feel we absolutely must find. We must come to a more inspired way of living. Then on Uranus on the other side, I already told you what that's about. That's about being in the present moment. So again, this is kind of like, how can we make the life, our lives, and the lives of the people around us more inspired, more beautiful? How can we as a society, because these are outer planets, whereas like Venus and Mercury, those are the inner planets. They're more personal, so that's more about my life. But with these planets up here, it's more about the collective. So how can we make things better in society as a whole? It kind of feeds into that whole North Node, like where we're going concept. How can I do that on an individual level? How can I do my part to do it to lead us into that on the collective level? So there's both of these things going on now. And the red is kind of like a more driving energy, whereas the green is a more flowing energy. So basically it's saying as we push ourselves a little bit. That's not quite the right word, but as we feel that we must make these changes and do what we have to in terms of taking care of ourselves and taking care of the people around us in order to make those changes, then as we begin to feel better on an individual level, then that's going to flow up and make an improvement, have an impact on the collective level as well. That's basically what this is saying to me. Okay, so that's the underlying energy of this. And then to make this even clearer, I took a look at the 8 vibration because that's the strongest vibrational astrology vibration. So that's like if you took the chart and magnified it 8 times, this is what you would get, and the message is even clearer. So look at this. Look how strong this is. You've got the planet Jupiter on the one end that everything is pointing to, and Jupiter basically just expands everything. That's its role. It just wants to make everything bigger, everything more expansive, affecting more people, doing things in a bigger way. All of anything big, that's Jupiter. And it's making big what we see in the present moment, or basically our present reality, the things that are clear to us. It's making clear and bigger our own emotions as well. And that's a little bit related to the past, because how we feel in any point in time is almost basically always related to things that have been going on, our moods, our attitudes, our habits, all of that play into how we're feeling at a particular time. So it's putting a big emphasis on that as well, and saying you gotta look at this and make some changes if you need to, because this is the 8 vibrations. This is what we must do. This is what we feel like is really important to us to make these changes on right now. So we have to look at that and see what changes we need to make in order to make things better for ourselves in a bigger way, and make our lives bigger in a way as well. And then we've got this attraction to beauty as well. So how can we create even more beauty in our lives? And then we've got Mercury, which is about, remember, the association of ideas and thoughts and communications. So more beautiful thoughts that feed into our emotions and make us feel better, and therefore have an effect on what we see in our current surroundings, in our current reality. And then we've got this Uranus in there as well. All of this going to Jupiter, and Uranus is like, stay present, stay present, stay present. Don't get caught in the past. Don't get caught in the future. Stay present. Find the beauty in the present situation. Find, how you can talk about it, how you can relate it, how you can really, I think, lift other people up with this Jupiter, and and see how it affects your emotions. See how it affects your current reality. Then it's saying you've got to take your responsibility in a way to make these changes, but look where you're going. Look where you're going with this. You're making things better for yourself and for everybody else by looking for the good, looking for the positive, looking for how to make life better for yourself on an individual basis, and then through that for the collective, for expanding it out. So that's the main energy of this eclipse. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to point out with this. I was looking at the midpoints in the 8 vibration, and these kind of are a little bit hidden, but not really in this case. You could see that this is the planet Mercury again. This is just going to go back to the wheel again. So that's this planet here, association of ideas, thoughts, communication, and that's in the middle of a lot of stuff involving Uranus. So that often, to me, this is saying, be present. Sun and Uranus is be present. See focus on the present. There's Moon Uranus. That's pay attention to your emotions in the present. There's Venus Uranus. So find the beauty in the present moment. And then there's also, this wasn't in the lines, but there's also Saturn and Juno. Saturn is about focusing on what's absolutely important and that's necessary, and getting rid of everything that isn't. And Juno is related to our long-term partnerships, including our spouses, our maybe roommates, or anyone who you feel connected to, who you have a long-term relationship with. Could be your children as well, could be business partners. But focusing on what's important, and in those partnerships and relationships, and talking about it, or thinking about it, or putting together information, ideas about it. So it's doing all of that in the present moment and forming your ideas. It's almost like to me, kind of repatterning your brain, and tell what story are you telling yourself? What story are you telling to others? And how can you be more present in how you show up in your thoughts and in your communication? So that's a big part of this energy as well. And then Venus is the other one that's making a lot of midpoints, and Jupiter, of course, which is expanding everything, like I said. But Venus is about, again, finding the beauty, looking at the current reality, your emotions, finding the beauty in that, looking at your current reality and how you think about it, how you communicate about it, and finding the beauty in that, looking at your again, your emotions and how you communicate and think about those and finding the beauty in that. So, is it clear enough yet? It just, it's bam, bam, bam. Do those things. That's if you can do that over the next 6 months, you're going to be, and we're all going to be in a better place by the time we get there. And then we'll be given another challenge by the universe. But that's what's on our plate for now. And I also recommend that you go back and look at my video that I did on the solar eclipse, which happened on August 12th, because that kind of gave an idea of where we're going, what we're heading toward in a more concrete sense in terms of, what our goals and that kind of thing. Whereas this is more like the emotional side of things. So we have to marry the two. And they're both important because, again, they both last for 6 months until February of 2027 when the next eclipse cycle starts. So I hope this served you. And remember, I'll be at Mountain Mystic on Saturday in Front Royal, Virginia, or you can reach out to me online. My link tree in the bio has all the information on how to get to me and my, various social media platforms and my website and all that stuff. So if you're interested in finding out what this means for you specifically, we can take a look at that. And we can also take a look at your own life and what your challenges are, what your talents are, how to use those better, how to bring healing to areas where you're struggling, all that kind of stuff. And we can look at you and your relationships as well. So yeah, there's lots of things that I would love to talk to you about if you are interested in that. So yeah, look me up. Hope that this serves. Again, have a great day. I will catch you next time.